Yoso Bhagavan Sambuddho Swagato Yena Bhagavata Supatipanno Yasa Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Dhammayam Bhagavandam Sadhammam Sasangha Ime Isagare Yataraham Aropidehi Abhipujaya Sadhu no Bande Bhagava Sujira Barini Topi Bhajima Janadana Gamba Manasa Ime Sagare Dokatavana Karabonde Patigan Amhanam Dikaradam Pitaya Sukhaya Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivade Swagato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sangham Namami. Andamayam Buddhasa Bhagavato Pupapakanamakanagaroma Se Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Okay, so chanting, and living on my own at this moment, a few months. So obviously I don't have any community to chant with, which is a bit of a loss, because in chanting there's a sense of harmony. You chant together, you listen to each other, you get the sounds rise, and there's a sense of the voice is collected, your voice is collected to everybody else's voice. So you get a sense of the group resonance. It's just such a beautiful thing to experience harmony, literally harmony, with other human beings. You know, straight away. If you listen, you tune in, you get it. And wow, that's how good it could feel if we could do that. and why don't we do it? Well, because we don't listen adequately, and we don't speak adequately. You know, really chanting, it's your whole body speaks. You have to get the breath, the body to resonate, and the resonances. So this is why, of course, the teachings were always spoken, because it's the whole body expresses the teaching. You know, And there's something about that, because when your whole body expresses it, you're not telling lies. You're absolutely exactly where you are. It's not, well, maybe, but it sort of depends how you feel. No, it's there, right? That's it, you know. And how many things can you do that with, right? How many things could you really just do that with? It's going to be truth, isn't it? You can't do this with supposition and maybe and manipulation and trying to just be polite. You've got to do it from a sense of real present truth. Yeah. Why it's and what can you say in truth? May you be well, may I be well. May suffering cease. May there be clarity, may there be honesty. You know, we can say these things in truth, can't we? We say these truths and you feel, yes, that's right. Now, who you are and who I am, what you think, and it's all, that's secondary. Let's just speak our truth. And maybe we hear that in each other, the sense of, okay, now we know who we are and where we are. We'll work out the details from there. It's such a beautiful thing to experience the fullness of chanting. And of course, in this, in this ritual form, we're also recollecting certain things, for our long-lasting welfare and happiness. The Buddha teaches for our long-lasting welfare and happiness. These are just one little phrase, and you do the chanting, sometimes you just get one phrase in all that you're recollecting. That's it. Do I practice for my true welfare and happiness, or am I somewhat kind of deluded, running the wrong race, climbing the wrong tree, climbing the wrong mountain even? A lot of effort, but it's just the wrong mountain. And so this causes us to recollect this, you start where you start. You stay with the groundedness, the presence, the honesty where you start, and you walk with that. That's called the middle way. Okay, so I find it just a recollection of what it is to be Sangha, honourable, upright, straightforward, direct, integrity, what it takes to be that, what that means to me. So really trying to get these values embodied and to feel them in your body. That's where you get the truth of it. So truth is not just verbal accuracy, it means resonant presence. Don't you feel in your heart. So let's take a little time in silence now. And we chant in order to begin to touch into that sense of presence and embodiment. Embodiment, because this is the touchstone of truth, of real practical truth, non-theoretical, practical, realized truth. It's embodied. So, the Buddha says, contemplating the body internally, externally. Why the body internally, externally? Breathing, one knows the breathing internally, externally. And often this is expressed as, oh, you know it in other people, you know it in yourself. I don't think that's correct, frankly. I can't make any use of that. I've never contemplated anybody else's breathing. I've never known anybody else contemplate somebody else's breathing. So, can you imagine it? Studying somebody else's breathing. And even if I did, so what? But what about if it means the external signs of breathing, that's the movement of the muscles, that which you can be detected externally, that my body is swelling and subsiding. Maybe there's the nostrils are being touched by air. That's the external. Because that's not breath, is it? That's the external aspect of what it what breath is caused by. That's important. And the internal is the sense of something flowing and swelling. Right? The two obviously go together. As the external body, the physicality, expands and opens, the internal qualities move through. And it's getting, first of all, the external, because if your body is tightly constricted externally, it's not going to be able, the breath is going to be able to operate internally very well. So we just start, because you can't take the external state of the body for granted. It may look the same, but actually when you come down to what you're experiencing it as, it can be quite hard, contracted, unbalanced, stagnant. So this is why we use the posture. The whole body. So it comes into balance. Simple word. So the legs, the tail, the spine are doing what they should do. Let's put a little more energy in those, less energy in the shoulders and the face. You don't need much there at all. And the chest, getting the arms slightly away from the side of the body, just enough to let the chest feel it can expand easily. And most of us will need to put more attention into firming up the bases. This is the pelvic girdle, the lower back. Just bring attention there. And soften your awareness of your shoulders, particularly your face. You don't need anything there. So you redress the way your body is framed externally. Breathing from the base of the body, and as you go further up, it gets more open and more open and more open. Face is then very light, very light. It knows it doesn't pull the air in, just allows it to move through. When the face is light, it's also sensitive, and you experience a certain flush. Breathing in and breathing out. So your out breath, as your breath is breathing out, just feeling what's happened externally. Slight compression in the abdomen. And then the release in the abdomen allows the inhalation to rise. Check what's happening in your chest. Across the top of the chest, it's non-constrictive. Open the throat, relaxing the face. And then the pause, the open state, until breathing descends again. External is balanced. Then the internal qualities can suffuse by themselves. You don't need to do anything. You don't have to do anything apart from stay with it. So that helps to relax the mind, the doing mind. And we become more the feeling mind, the receptive mind, the internal aspect of mind. Internal aspect of mind is not about behavior, it's about receptivity. The external aspect of mind is behavior. what we do. Internal aspect is how we receive. Very important to go together. More receptive internally, more gentle and agile externally. Behavior becomes non-forceful, clear. The more you act like that, the more internal qualities of mind also mirror that. This is karma. So let's follow some of these suggestions. If you find yourself getting lost in the mind internally, it's time to just focus a little more on the external aspect of the body. That's the sense of the physicality of it. Grounding. Still feel a bit confused, lost, keep your eyes open. Get a little more external. Steadying the eyes are open, but the focus is wide. The eyes are held lightly and still. Finding the balance. And because we're not doing very much, directive mind can feel a little bit agitated, should be doing something. Say, well, what you should be doing, if you like, is just holding, listening, caring, interested. Do that. Release expectation. Do that. Release judgment and comparison and go directly to what's being sensed as it is now. How is that? Directive mind, if it needs direction, just tell it, ask it to name very simply one part of the body you can directly feel. Stay with that through the process of an inhalation and an exhalation. Listening, caring. And if it's possible to widen, like you're stretching a sheet, awareness over the entire form, externally, how breathing affects that, how it affects breathing. And internally, span of the form, expansion, the tingling, the subsiding, softening, so forth. The two together. So we'll lift our attention and open up the sense fields where we are now, how it is now. Move the body if it needs to move. And where have we been? Okay, so I'll offer some reflections. Someone would like to make a request.
Ramachaloka Dipati Sahampati Kantanjali Anadiwarang Ayachata Santida Sata Parajakajatika Desetu Dhammang Anukampimang Pajang.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sangham namasami. So this is our possibility of, as beings, liberation of citta, liberation of heart or mind or awareness, whatever terms seem relevant. And one little set of teachings in the Satipatthana teachings is one knows the citta as affected by qualities such as greed or love or hatred or joy. One knows the citta contracted or expanded, uplifted, cast down, scattered, whatever. One knows it internally, one knows it externally. And this internal, external, as I said, is often in sense as being other people. I don't know how many of you can actually read the minds of other people. It's not, I can imagine them, but that's just my perspective. And most of the time, it's a guess. But I do know externally when I'm behind, I can check my mind's behavior, how it manifests externally when it gets urgent or panicky or forceful or faltering or wounded or guilty. I can sense, I can watch, I can contemplate the behaviors of the citta. It comes out in the way I speak, the way I see the world, all that gets coloured. The external, citta manifests externally in terms of behavior. I don't just mean physical action, I mean the way I regard. So when we feel, for example, our citta feels guilty or frightened, we look around and we see all terrible things to be frightened of. We can look into the past and think all the terrible things I might have done wrong or whatever. That's external. Internally, you feel the sense of sinking, agitation, groundlessness. It's internal. internal is the essence, if you like, of what the chitta's feeling, and external is what the chitta's doing. And you can certainly track those. And to do so is considered liberating. Because this is a way that you get perspective. Yeah. And it's a way of training. Why is it that we regard qualities such as greed or aversion, delusion, as unskillful, as things we wish to discard, not do, not have? And yet, by and large, you see these kinds of behaviors are happening all the time. You know, there's a lot of greed going on, a lot of enticement for greed. You know, advertising entices greed, propaganda entices hatred, entertainment incite delusion, and people are externally, that's external qualities, people are submerged in this kind of input. This is why we do need to take refuge externally. Find a quiet place, find a quiet situation, establish a shrine. Externally, internally, a feeling of the sacred. Your life is precious. Contemplate what's happening for you. Prioritize how you're sensing. Don't concern yourself with what you look like, how you're doing, how well you're performing, how good you are at your work. Pull all that aside, focus, get the refuge internally. Where you are now, you have to bless it and encourage it. Right? Make a refuge. Make a refuge. Buddha says, make a refuge for yourself. With clear attention, make a refuge. If you go for refuge, if you make a refuge for yourself, it is impossible that you can go to an unfortunate place, hell realm, an animal realm. And people don't make refuges for themselves, do go to those unfortunate places, animal behavior. We call it animal behavior, just gross sensuality, addiction to sensuality, impulsive, and so forth. I don't think animals necessarily doing that. But we call that animal behavior, or hungry ghost behavior, constantly needing more and more, never satisfied, because they haven't taken refuge internally, haven't established it. They don't really know that these things are painful. Maybe they think these things are illegal, so they don't want to get seen doing it, or socially unacceptable, so they don't want to own up to it, but they don't really know it, the effect of it. You know, how could you be, say, you know, a dictator and, you know, bring around the destruction of life of many people if you really knew and felt the pain and the suffering and the hellishness of that kind of mind? You couldn't do it. So basically, you shut it off. And people can shut this off. You can shut off the internal aspect of the mind. If you're a soldier, you have to shut it off, because you couldn't kill somebody you don't know unless you close that down. It's called brutalizing people. And so this is certainly something that happens and is even encouraged. People to lose awareness of what's happening for them internally. Yeah. And at a certain point in which, if you can get away with it, if you can lie your way out of it, if you can not be seen, you act in unskillful ways. Or if you've got enough power, you act in unskillful ways, nobody can do anything about it anyway. You don't really know the effect. Yeah. So important to bring the internal aspect of the mind. Taking the precepts is an external thing. Feeling the quality of conscience and concern and sensitivity and the joy of an upright mind. The joy of integrity. That's the internal. You have to have both of them. Otherwise, you're just following rules, which is better than not following, but it doesn't give you happiness. So there's a lot to be said for this, because if we take any of these Dhamma practices and internalize them, really internalize them. I'm sitting not so I can meditate, I'm sitting because I feel good. It makes me feel more whole and complete. Now, I'm refraining from deceiving or manipulating because I feel cleaner and straighter like that. Of course. So internal, external. And the fact is that there's could be some loss of awareness of that internal. And of course, there is a certain amount of confusion, defilement, or ignorance about our citta. We tend to lose it, not be aware of it, have blind spots in it. So this means we get overwhelmed with feelings or with energies or with emotions. We can't manage it. Suddenly find ourselves really angry, or really frightened, or really feeling we've been let down, and that internal feeling just wells up and takes over our world. So often you've got to check it. Is that really the case? Or is it just internal, not actually in line with what's happened externally? Just my interpretation. Bringing the two together. And so important when we practice that naturally, because of what we're in, both in terms of our social input, if you like, our history, our karmic history, where there is probably some sore spots, some damaged spots, some blind spots. And you can't just anguish and agonize over that. The pragmatic healing of full awareness of this experience. We do feel depressed, we do feel unhappy, okay? And so something says you shouldn't be, or try to do something about it, or cheer up, or be happy. No, that's not right. That's the wrong voice. That's the wrong voice. It's cruel to expect people to be happy all the time. Just so everybody looks good. Like they do in the movies. So when we come across some of our disorder, our discord, our sadness, our stuckness in our mind, what do we do about that? What's our response? The doing mind wants to do something. And I'm suggesting that the doing mind refers to external. You can stop drinking. You can switch the phone off. You can say, I'm sorry. You can do external things that will be helpful. You cannot do internal things, because doing is not an internal function. It's an external function, right? You understand? Doing is associated with what I project. Instead, we come to the receptive, which is more feeling, balancing, opening. It's a kind of doing, but it's not that directive doing. It's more a embracing, holistic comprehension of full awareness, as the Buddha expressed, sampajanya, full awareness. So we're fully aware. Say, what's the good point about being fully aware of feeling anxious and frightened? Doesn't sound like a very good idea at all. Well, be fully aware means you're aware, this is the feeling, this is the energy, this is the mood. But what is not there is an owner, a person, a self. The mood, the energy, those experiences, that's there, but the me isn't there. Instead, there's a quality of knowing, aware, holding it. And if we've made that awareness our refuge, our Buddha, if you like, our internal Buddha, perhaps we could say, why don't you trust this? So, okay, so now I'm aware, not just kind of briefly aware, but sustained aware. This is the quality of feeling sad, anxious, lonely. Forget the labels, forget the words. There are no words on this experience. What's happening? Shivering, sinking, pulsing. Okay. Keep expanding. How is that in your body? Where is it in your body? Do you have a body? Because the nature of it is so often we get absorbed, we don't even realize we have a body. And external body, first of all, you're sitting still. Feel that sense of the stillness, fully aware, expanding your awareness to include external body. External body doesn't complain, doesn't judge, doesn't identify. Sense of simple stillness. And you begin to sense, oh, there is some contraction in my chest, in my throat. Why don't I become receptive to that and open that? Sensing the body internally is breathing. So we move into a holistic awareness. There's embodiment, the mind, the heart is now fully embodied. Why don't we stay with this? Is this the truth? Once it's the truth, as I've been suggesting, the mark of what's really true for you is what is embodied. The rest of it is theory and notion. So let's get fully with the anxious body. How far does that go? A lot of energy in the face, maybe in the throat. What about the arms, the fingers, the feet, the back? What about the end of an exhalation and the beginning of an inhalation? Fully aware. And now we begin to know this condition, this state is stressful, not self, not mine. It's a form, a state, a form. And my awareness can realize a fuller, more complete, more authentic, more balanced form than this unsatisfactory, afflicted form, which is like a wave or a wrinkle or a tension within a fuller form of being. So in this way, we've not just discarded the emotion, we've not shifted it, we've not said, oh, it's just an emotion, let it pass. We've stayed with it, and we've widened to really know this is a form. Chitta takes forms. The angry chitta, the exuberant chitta, the firm, decisive chitta, the wavering, uncertain chitta, the loving, comforting chitta. They're all slightly different forms, aren't they? All of them must be welcome because they will all happen. If you don't receive them in awareness, if you don't receive your anxiety, your irritation in awareness, what occurs is something called splitting. Splitting means you split off from it. You kind of, oh, well, it's his fault, it's and me and you get created. And that split stays as a kind of scar, an unresolved split. And people do this a lot. If you can't resolve these mental states, you split off from them and they just stick there like pieces of debris in your heart, cluttering the joyfulness, cluttering the freshness. And people do this. They got all kinds of resentments and agitations and fears and regrets and wish I hadn't been and what did she think about me and he was a bad guy. Just stuck there. And you keep busy to get away from it. All the things I've done wrong, just stuck there. The things I was never good at, that's all stuck there. The feeling of failure, that's stuck there. And I just keep doing something to get away from it. Fill myself with something to get busy with because I don't want to meet the loneliness. Yeah. Or the hurt or whatever it was. Yeah, of course. It's not fun. But do we want to heal or not? If you want to heal, you've got to take the bandage off. And it's not just why, because I don't want to just go into that terrible state again. Absolutely. You don't want to go into that. Don't go into it. Don't go into it. Hold it as a form in your embodiment. Everybody gets this, remember. Everybody gets this. Everybody has this. There's nothing specifically you about it. So, and the courage to be fuller, wider in your awareness of that and get into your body, because your embodiment will act as a refuge to hold it, contain it, and also to let it say what it has to say without being censored or fixated upon as a final truth. It just has to be said and it can go. And sometimes it doesn't say things verbally, it just says things as an emotion moves. A feeling of, oh, I was, whatever I was, wounded or hurt person. That hurt person finally walks out of your heart. They finally said enough, they've gone. But they don't walk out if you don't open up to them. They just stay there grumbling in the background. Mm. Again, if we just say, okay, that's a mind state, it's impermanent, it's not self, go back to the breath or whatever, that's understandable. Maybe that's necessary at times, you can't manage it. But the teaching doesn't say that. It says knowing it fully in itself. This is the way, the final and the complete practice for the resolution. When we begin to discover our behavior, our sort of impatience or our willfulness, and you start to check your behavior, think, how, and realize you can't bathe a baby like washing a car, so you're always grinding away at things. You're not picking up the external properly, are you? You shouldn't clean your teeth like you're scrubbing a floor. So you got, yet we can get locked into one of these kind of firm, get it done behaviors as a form, because that's the form that's encouraged. Be effective, be efficient. Therefore, scrub your teeth like you're scrubbing a floor. No, you get locked into that. So, okay, that may have been necessary to scrub a floor, but you're not scrubbing floors all the time. Know that form, that feeling of getting things done, how attractive that form is. Getting things done, a very attractive form. Don't be deceived by it. It's a form. It's not a refuge. Yeah. Being nice and relaxed, that's nice, but that's a form too. There's time to be firm. There's time to be. How do you know? How do you know what to do? You know by staying embodied and letting your own heart sense what feels right or in balance now. What feels in balance? She's talking, he's talking, they're talking. I think it's time to be quiet and listen. Yeah. He's agitated, she's stressing, whatever. It's time just to, okay, let's just, take some time out. People aren't listening, it's time to say, come on guys, let's get together, can we? Everybody okay? So it's this balancing. You're doing that externally and internally. That flexibility comes through understanding these mindsets, mind states, mind forms, fully embracing them, aware of them, completing the fulfillment of awareness by embodying it until there's no more reaction. No more reaction to it. It takes a while. In that process, you don't just calm, you also begin to see what it's based upon. What's that mindset based upon? I'm not behaving like it all the time, but in some situations that happens. What's it based on? The perception I am inadequate. I am the one who has to do a lot. I am that perception. That little self has to be heard, listened to, allowed to walk out. The overworked self, the over-responsible self, the one who's always got to do more than they can do in order to be accepted. Ooh, that sounds difficult. Anybody have any of those? Oh, for your welfare and happiness, for your welfare and happiness, and for the welfare of others, can you hold that in full awareness until it, she, he decides to walk away? They've had enough, they've finished. no pushing, no cutting off. This is massive. This is where true compassion and kindness is generated and fulfilled. Wisdom and calming go together. Results internal, results are external. One's own welfare, the welfare of others. For this sake, for this purpose, the Buddha said, of all things to contemplate, all things to pay attention to, the only thing that you really need to understand is your own citta. Elusive, slippery, evasive, difficult to grasp. This is your life work, your life practice, and the joy of your life when you fulfill it. So I offer this for your reflection today.
Handamayang Dhamma Kataya Sadhu Karang Dadamase Sadhu 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 Namokam.
Okay. Well, thank you for showing up and the encouragement for your practice. I know it's a little bit remote, but in some ways it's not remote at all. Dhamma is always very, very direct and penetrative. This is what's so beautiful about it, even in these extraordinarily testing, challenging times. Do look after yourself, do encourage yourself, do make yourself a refuge. There's no other refuge. And this is a refuge, definitely. So I'll close the session today. And just to remind you that there will be another session on 7th of October at this time. And what I'm suggesting is it could be a question time. Now, some of you may be subscribed to Dhamma tracks, and so I will look at that. I do look at that incidentally and consider it, reflect upon it periodically. And so I'll start to look through that and bring out some questions. Also, we'll see, if you don't go into Dhamma tracks, if you're not into that, then you can put things in the chat box. Clearly, I can answer maybe, 7 or 8 questions. So it's good if I can get them in advance, I can kind of group them together into one particular area I can handle in one go. Anyway, we'll do what we can, as always, and hopefully it'll be of some use to everyone. So until the next time, stay in the stream and keep floating.
Thank you so much, Ajahn, for offering these reflections. Everyone, if we can close the session with 3 bows to Ajahn. First bow, second bow, third bow. Sorry, Ajahn, do you want to finish with paying respects to the Buddha? And then
pay respects to Triple Gem.
Yes.
Dhamma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivati Swagato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sangham Namah.